There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt.
I'm Bruce.
And I'm back.
Oh,
Whoa!
yeah.
Hey.
I guess we're starting a new series.
Yay! Yeah, we were talking about our fun times, and the best times we had was doing this Wheel of Time series.
Yeah, and I
That's a lot
heard the
of fun.
podcast and immediately got on the horn and said, okay, what book are we reading?
I know. We picked a good one here.
Yeah,
This
I
is your
really-
first time
yeah.
reading it, by the way.
We've
I'd
talked
never-
about it a little bit on the series, on this show
Yes,
before,
we have.
but, this is the
But not
first time
in
we go
detail.
into detail. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, spoilers all the way through. So go
At least
go
the
ahead.
first book. Don't spoil the series.
No, we're not going to spoil book 2
I feel
yet.
like Bruce now.
For you.
Wheel of Time after a while.
rockets.
Okay. So as I'm gonna just say this, as rereading it, I knew some of the things, and even when they did the big reveals, I was like, yeah, I already knew it, but I was like, that's a smart way to do that.
I know.
That was a great way to end that book. That
Yeah.
little set of books.
Well, it was kind of like the perfect time, because it was like, as I read it, I remembered it, but I wasn't predicting too much. So it was kind of just coming back to me again. And so it was a good time to revisit.
There's still
If
some
you're
mystery when I read it, but then I realize, oh yeah, that's when it happens,
Yes.
or that's how it happens.
If you're talking about the twist that I think you're talking about.
Well, there's a few, and we'll go
there's
through
a few
them
It
twists.
together.
did, I
but-
mean, it didn't really take me too much by surprise, but I have kind of a nihilistic thought about things anyway, so.
Okay, so basically, this story opens up with, we'll just talk about the first part here, Deputy Holston. Mm-hmm. And they're living in, the world is in a silo. It's 144 floors, is that right?
Yeah,
think
something
it's
like that.
144.
140,
And
okay.
it's divided into sections, the upper, the mid, and the lower. Lower is where the mining is, where the mechanical stuff is.
Yeah, the blue
Mid-
collars.
Yeah, blue collars. Mid is your middle management people. That's your farmers.
Hydroponics. and-
Hydroponics. IT is down there too in the mids. I
Uh,
believe, aren't they?
I would say upper mids.
Oh,
but
they're upper mids?
yeah,
Okay, I thought they were
upper mids
too.
or lower highs, I
Okay.
guess.
But
They're on level
but there's the-
34,
There's the
33,
shopping,
somewhere
there's
around
the
there.
entertainment on the mids, or maybe the entertainment's in the uppers, now that I think about it.
Honestly, don't remember any
then-
entertainment.
The only time they talk about going to see Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
Yes.
Romeus.
And they had to go, Romeo's,
Romeus, yes.
And they had to talk about when her parents took her all the way up.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember
so that
them
was-
mentioning of floors, but
Yeah, I think that was in the top there. And the top is not ritzy, rich people. I didn't get that sense, but I don't know
No.
what is on
Nobody,
the top.
I mean, I would say the picture
Apartments, a big
Oh,
cafeteria.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
thing is, the picture I have in my mind is all pretty grim and dirty. It's just, the lower you go,
Oh, the lower you go,
worse
it's
it is.
obviously
It's the-
grittier.
It's the more
Yes.
manual labor.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
There's no,
there could be
it's not like the Hunger Games where the Capitol is on top. And
I mean,
it's all
the
glitz and
sheriff's
glamour.
office
Right,
is on the
right.
top
Everything is-
floor,
everybody
as is
has
the
it rough.
mayor's, as is a few. And so there's probably some more dignitaries or leaders at the top,
Yeah.
Right.
even though we're not really.
But even
No,
those
we're
people
only
have
really-
it rough compared to
Yeah.
how we live today in today's
Yeah, no.
society.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But they're all living in one silo, and they only travel by stairs, by the way.
Yeah, it takes days to move up and down.
Yeah, which is interesting because you get the feel of this world quite quickly. In
Well,
my
it's one of
opinion.
the great things I like about the series as a whole is the world building is pretty fantastic.
I mean, you basically, after that first story set with Deputy Holston, you kind of understand where they're at right
You
now.
get the
I mean,
basics.
you don't know
Yeah.
why they're in a. You don't
I've-
know what's going on, but you know they're living in a silo. But you get the world.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe because my mind was jumping ahead as to where the story was going to go, that I didn't get a good feel for the world building until the mayor's point of view, which is part two.
Oh, the part two, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's fine because that's
that's
the
when
part
she
where
makes
she's
her
exploring
traveling.
the whole
Yeah.
thing. No, I totally understand that. But because you don't know how deep it goes, I don't
Yeah,
think
'cause
they
this
even
time
mention the
around-
floors until she starts her journey, right? Well, no.
Holston talked about
Holston
it a
maybe
bit
mentioned
because
it.
he,
Yeah.
he
It's
mentioned
coming.
IT and his
Yes,
his
he
wife
does.
work.
He's going through the whole thing, the whole silo in general. That's
Right.
right. You're right. He did that. Okay, but it starts with Holston. A little bit of a mystery. He's a man. He's beaten, he's broken down, and he decides today is the day he's going to die. And he just locks himself in the cell, and he's ready for a cleaning. You don't know what that means at first, and then
he's
later
he's
on,
the sheriff.
yeah, he's the sheriff.
Yeah.
And so now you see that, oh, this is a death sentence to go out and clean the windows and die. And he knows there's a secret that his wife figured out. His wife went to cleaning 3 years ago. Is that right?
3 years
And
to the day.
3 years to the day, and they need cleaning it seems like they need cleaning every 2
Well,
years.
the thing is, the cleaning builds up over time.
Yeah, 'cause they're muck
Because they
from
do talk
outside.
about how, like, it's a death sentence to become the cleaner.
Right.
But
'cause
so
there's
they're
no
not
going
gonna
back.
they're not gonna just send somebody out to do it. Somebody has to do something requiring a death sentence.
Right.
And so they do make comments that, things get kind of restless if there's not been a cleaning in a long enough.
Yeah.
And he's the first one since his wife.
yes.
He's the first one since his wife, and cleaning's overdue, and everyone's on edge because they know someone has to be sentenced to death
Right.
right now because it's overdue for a cleaning. So he decides to go because his wife, when she went out, he doesn't understand why everyone who goes out for a cleaning says they will not do it. They aren't.
Right.
They're pissed. They're sending them to their death. They're not going to do it. They're going to flip them the bird and run away. But then they always clean. They end up they end up happy too.
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand what that secret is. But he thinks his wife knew something. His wife was on to something.
Right.
Now, right now in the first part, we don't know what that is. But his wife was on to something. And so he's like, well, maybe I can't figure it out. It's bothering me. I'm just going to go out and clean and just
Yeah.
find out for myself. I mean, it may be my death, but his wife, you can every cleaner you can find, they're out there on the hills. They've died. They don't make it over
And
the
you can
hill.
see them,
Yeah.
their bodies
They
lying to
deteriorate
distance.
away, and they deteriorate faster.
There's something in
decompose
the
faster
air.
in the air. The air is acidic or something. It's,
Right.
It's very bad
It
shape
eats through their suit. They have
Yeah.
these special suits that are supposed to give them just enough time
to clean.
to clean. They say that they've improved on it, and everybody gets just
But the
a little
conditions
bit
are
more.
just-
So every time that they've made a suit and they're testing it out, so they're only getting to test it out,
Every couple of years.
every few years.
Yeah.
That everybody gets just a little bit further, because they all go towards this hill.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get over the hill because
Or
there's a
s-
city over there. You can see the tops of these, buildings and stuff, and
And
so
just
they
to-
think,
yeah.
well, maybe there's people there, and so
Yeah.
they're always heading that way, and everybody gets just a little bit further.
And then they
Because
die.
with the world building thing, it was like, these people, their whole world is just this, basically an underground skyscraper.
Right.
And that's, and they even talk about, God created the silo.
Right.
That's the level of knowledge they have, is that
Yeah.
that's their whole world is
Yeah.
this underground building.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so
That's
they
it.
they do wonder what could possibly be out there, but they can't ever get there.
I don't believe they ever say how many people are living in the silo, do they?
Oh, there's no number.
Okay.
So
So,
they have lotteries where
Yeah.
you can try to have children.
children
yes.
are limited.
Yeah.
Yes, children are limited because
But apparently
no more than two per
birth.
couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to win the lottery to attempt to have a child, and
you
even
only
in that
have a
case,
year.
they're not having babies, so there must be something else going on that is.
Well, they
reducing
can't- they-
fertility.
they-
Well, Holston and his wife didn't have a
Yeah.
baby.
Right. They got the lottery chit and got a year to try to have a baby, but they only however many people died that year is however many lottery
Lotteries there
chits
are
that they
held,
give
yeah.
out.
Right.
And I'm saying chit, CHIT. I think that's how they spell it. I only listen to it.
Yeah.
But that's basically their form of money.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. And so, anyway, so he goes out for his cleaning, and then suddenly he sees that the world is green
Beautiful.
again. Like everything's beautiful, everything's back to normal.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Oh my gosh!" While the muck was over our windows, they don't know that Earth has been healed.
Right.
And so he starts.
And that's what
to-
he thinks that his wife has figured out is
Yes. He
that
thinks,
everything's
"Oh
wonderful."
my gosh, my wife is okay. Everything's fine. This is just
Mm-hmm.
an illusion." So he makes sure to clean those windows really good.
So that
Yeah.
And then
everybody
he
downstairs
runs off,
maybe can
runs
see.
up to the hill, and then suddenly becomes sick.
Yeah.
Keels over, takes off his helmet because he can't breathe,
He thinks I'm out of air. They only
Yeah.
gave me so much air. I need to take this off. And
and then dies in a wasteland. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, what? And so that's kind of how it starts. You're like, what just happened
Yeah.
there? And I like
it's
a
like
story
Game
that-
of Thrones in a silo. The best character. You
Yeah.
get just development and this
Boy, the main
richness
character,
and everything,
yes.
and all of a sudden, he's dead.
He's dead
Well,
now.
and they do it again in
And
the
here
second
comes-
part.
Yeah.
and they do it for the second part. 'Cause
Uh-huh.
The second part it focuses on. Now this takes place shortly after. the mayor and the deputy.
Oh,
not
I'd
the
say
sheriff.
within a week or so.
I know, and again,
Yeah.
characters you grow to love quick. It's like, okay, we're introduced to the main character. Oh, he's died in the first part. Okay, these are obviously going to be our main characters.
Yeah, now we have our next two characters, which is the mayor and the deputy.
And the deputy, yeah.
That was in the previous story. Both of these were in the previous story. And now they're going to go find a new sheriff because the deputy doesn't want to be sheriff. He's been deputy forever.
Right.
So they start on this big trek. That is where we explore the
Yeah.
silo. We get to hear more about the levels as
they're gonna go
it's
down to the
taking
bottom.
days to get there. They're both
Yeah.
older.
Yeah, they're both.
And they both share a romantic history in the past.
There was
Yeah.
a history, but she married his best friend, and
Right.
he got married, and they kind of just,
And both. Well, I
Accepted
don't think
their place.
he never
Did he
got
end up-
married. He never got married.
I would think they were both married, and they both lost their spouses.
I don't remember him
Okay.
being married. I know that she was
I don't
married.
remember that either.
I do know
remember-
he refused promotion.
and she had
Yeah,
children.
he refused the promotion because
he didn't
the
wanna-
sheriff and the
Yeah.
mayor couldn't ever be together. So
Right.
secretly, he kind of still pines for her. Not secretly, but he
Yeah.
still pines for her, and she misses him too. I mean, she loves him too. But the whole ghost of the best friend is kind of an awkward point.
Yeah.
Well, and of course they kind of get together. They come together after a while. They go on the long trek down. By the way, let's see. Let's just
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
this over with.
why are they going?
And they finally get there. They stop by. They see a guy in IT, Bernard.
But it's the
Bernard,
first time
yeah.
we get to introduce to Bernard.
Bernard. He's our
he's the
antagonist.
bad guy for the series.
Yeah.
He's the head of
this
IT. Yeah.
And he's the head of IT. He's kind of on the same level as the mayor in a way. The mayor
Yeah.
runs the silo, but
Yeah.
IT
He's
runs
the behind the scenes
yeah.
in control.
Right.
He's the guy supposed to be monitoring the lives. He's doing the suits. He's kind of monitoring the world outside. So he's a very important thing. There's a pact between the
He's
head
the
of
deep
IT.
state.
Yeah,
Right.
deep state. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And they stopped to see him because they have chosen who they want to be.
Yeah, they had three
the next-
candidates and they chose
so
one.
In this situation, the sheriff is not voted on. It's decided by the mayor, and it's been customary for IT to sign off on that.
Yeah.
And so she stops by to say, okay, this is who we're looking at. We'd like you to go ahead and sign off, and we'll fill out paperwork and everything on our way back up. And he doesn't want to do it.
No, he already has someone that he likes in mind of their three, and he thinks it's a foregone conclusion. In fact, he's already told this guy he has the job, and
Yeah.
he's kind of gone
That's
over the
contract
limits,
written up.
which is what gets Marnes.
That's
Is it
when she
Marnes?
really
Marnes
realizes
is the deputy.
Yeah. Who was the mayor then?
Uh,
I thought Marnes was the
he
mayor.
was the deputy. Deputy
Okay.
Marnes.
I don't remember her name.
Okay. Anyway, but that's what sets her off, and she's like, "Oh, it was with a J, I think." Anyway, that's what sets her off, and she's like, no." Then at first she was like, "I don't even know about this Juliet girl. I don't even think she'll be good. I don't know what Marn sees in her, but I'll go visit her." But she
trusts
even
him.
she wasn't feeling the Juliet.
But she's
when
realizing
Bernard
that
makes
Bernard,
such a brash choice already. She went, "Okay, I'm intent on checking out Juliet first, and I really want her to get the job now."
And she has a moment where she looks at the other appointments that have all come from Bernard in the offices. It's just like, is this guy trying to seed the entire government with his people?
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I'm not going to give him this one.
Exactly.
And so she's
Yeah.
refusing to go with.
So
what
it kind of steals her resolve against him, and then that little that little spat happens, and Bernard's not happy either because they're not going with his pick, and so she travels all the way down to Mechanical where we meet Juliet. She is not a major character right now, still. And they get to talking with her. She's just
Don't want to do it.
tough
Yeah, not
talking. She don't want the job. She wants this, and actually, she makes a trade.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of pieces that are creaking and could go at any minute. Could last 100 years. Could last tomorrow.
Yeah. They
and
need
she
to-
wants a power shutdown, which the mayor will never do. And she goes, "If you approve that power shutdown and let us switch these out real quick, everyone go on half power."
Yeah. For
Then-
like a week or so.
Yeah, like a week of power. And so she said, "Then I'll be your deputy. I'll be your sheriff." It's like a trade because she really just cares about Mechanical, and she's thinking, you know what? When I go up there, be sheriff, they won't really want me anyway, and I can just go back down.
And they have the whole line. It's just like, it's like that she doesn't care about anybody. She's like, no, I care about everybody. Her focus is doing what it takes to get the job done.
Yes.
To help people.
Yeah.
And they have the line about, be careful giving her a job because she is going to do it. She's going to complete it.
She's going to complete it. She's not going to half-ass it. And Mechanical says that. In fact, Juliet is not from mechanical. She is from the mid-level, which is the medical realm
Right.
too.
Right.
And
Her father is
because
a-
her father. We should mention there's a separation between her and her father after her mother passed away. They have not talked for years. She just kept going down as low as she could go, and mechanical is where she found herself.
Yeah.
And that's when mechanical got some big respect for her
Yeah.
after her first week, because they all thought this mid person, they're not gonna stay here. But now, in fact, everyone in mechanical loves her and respects her.
Yeah. And it was 20 years ago too.
Yeah, it was 20
It's
years.
not just a short
yeah.
little. It was 20 years ago. She was 12
Yeah.
when it happened, and she decided, what happened is her baby brother was born
Right.
premature, and something went wrong with the incubator.
Right.
And she tried to. She was blaming the nurses and blaming the doctors, her dad, and everything. And finally, she was convinced that the incubator was actually the thing to blame, and she decided, well, I'm going to go learn how to fix things
Yeah.
so that this doesn't happen again.
We don't get half-ass products.
Right.
Yeah. So she goes down there, and so mechanical has all the love and respect. Everyone loves her, and she makes this trade because she really wants mechanical to work. They switch it out. It's great. It goes from super loud in that place to super. They wear as a trait. All of them in mechanical wear earmuffs because it's so loud down there.
Right.
But once they replace the mechanisms and everything, they have to take off their earmuffs to see if they didn't know it was running.
Yeah. She was still turning the starter.
Yeah, not thinking because they couldn't hear it, and they took
Right.
off their earmuffs and wait, this thing is humming. It's working. It's just quiet now.
Yeah.
And so life has just radically changed. Well, of course, Juliet leaves mechanical as she agrees to be the sheriff. Excuse me. She's actually, this is another huge win for
Oh
mechanical.
yeah, she leaves a hero.
And she's a hero in their mind. You know, I mean, they've always respected, they've always loved her,
Yeah.
but now she's like the greatest thing in the world because she's basically radicalized their lives there by making it run smoother. Now, they won't have as many issues now.
right.
So, we have that little adventure. Then there's the long trek up. And these are two. And Juliet's not with them late.
No.
Juliet
No.
will come later. She has 2 weeks, I think, to get her stuff together, say her goodbye.
Well, she's there during.
during the power holiday. Excuse
yeah.
me, power holiday. That's right.
Yeah.
And so that's when they start traveling back up. Of course, Bernard hates that she allowed a power holiday, even though IT has their own power supply. They don't lose power,
Right.
but he's pissed that she gave mechanical the way. He's pissed that Juliet's going to be sheriff. He's pissed on everything.
Yeah.
Okay, but he makes sure that they get their supply. By the way, this whole long trek, you're having to get food and supplies, water and everything.
Yeah.
So he gives them food, fills up their canteen, and leaves them on their merry way. She and Marnes are basically connecting at this point on the way up, holding
Yep.
hands, brushing hands, being together. They're doing something cute. They're drinking from each other's canteens because it's easier than reaching behind your back. Just have someone come up behind you and drink from your canteen, then you can drink from their canteen.
Drink off of you take the bottle off their back instead of them having to reach.
Reach around and everything. So it's a cute little thing that's going on. And then they get they get to the medical wing, I think, and they were going to stop by and see the father again.
father,
to
the
kind
father,
of tell
yeah.
her that, hey, Juliet's coming up. You may want to say hello.
Yeah.
And she has to go to the bathroom. She goes to the bathroom, comes back out, not feeling so good, and she realizes there's blood down her legs.
Yeah.
And she passes out, and then later on, skip 2 pages, we find out that she's been poisoned.
Right.
But
And
it
killed.
wasn't her that got poisoned. It was the deputy's canteen that was poisoned.
Because they were sharing, she was the one that got
and
it.
she's sharing, so
Yeah.
he got it. Now, we end scene right there. That's the end of it. So there goes our second main character, gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now Marnes, who was the kind of side character in this story, he becomes just a cameo now because he's
Yeah.
a shell of a man. He rarely speaks from here on out.
Yeah.
I think Juliet's the new sheriff. She wakes him up once, and he just kind of looks at the clock and goes, "Oh," and then goes home. But he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
He's torn up because, of course, that was the love of his life, and
He's
is,
trying to solve the murder, trying to figure out a way because he knows
He knows who did
he
it.
knows who did
He knows
it.
who did it. They just need the evidence.
But yeah, and really it was a failed attempted murder on him, and then he said the most that we could pin on
Bernard.
He thinks it's
he knows
Bernard.
it's Bernard.
He said the most we could pin on him is manslaughter,
Yeah.
which would only be like a few years and I don't know, like hard labor or something like that. I don't know.
I can't remember. Well, they can't find anything to pin on him.
and he said that's only if we had evidence, if we could do
Yeah.
it, and we don't even have that.
They don't even have that.
So, he's very distraught.
Yeah, he's not in good shape. He's the shell of a man he once was, and not really a deputy anymore to Juliet.
Right.
Eventually, he does kill himself. I think that.
Did he?
Well, I mean, then there's
That's
the
the
question
question.
of did he?
Yeah.
I want to say he probably did.
I would say he
possible.
did.
There's a lot of suicide deaths in this that
Yeah,
were
'cause the
not
thing is,
suicide deaths.
He
they
has
were
a suicide
murders.
death, but
Yeah.
then all of a sudden there's a bunch of similar suicide
yeah.
deaths that were obvious.
But I think
murders.
Marnes was a real suicide death.
I think so too.
I think his was. Now the rest of them were not obviously planned murders. Juliet starts digging into Holston and what he was investigating and his wife's studies. And of course, just like you said, you give Juliet a job, she goes all the way through with it, and she uncovers very close
Yeah.
some ideas like whatever program his wife had found. She didn't understand it. She sends it to a guy in IT, one of her old friends who was in mechanical but was
Right.
so smart he got promoted to IT. And he's like, what did you give me? Get down here, take it away from me right now, like now. So she runs down. That she takes hours to get down there.
Yeah.
And then sees him in the middle of the night. He's like, what are you doing down here? She said, you said come now. He said, yeah, get this out of here. Because this is something dangerous. She said, what is it? He said, I don't know. He said, but it's a formula to get
It's
pixels.
coding. Yeah.
It's coding.
It's coding to change images on a screen. Basically.
Yeah,
but it's a very small
not just
screen.
a video, not just transferring what a camera sees onto a screen, but actually creating
creating the
your own
image.
video.
image.
right.
But it's
which
on a
is
small-
which is something completely foreign to them. I mean, we say that and we're like, well, yeah,
Yeah,
people can
they
create
don't know what
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
they
one of
don't
the
have that.
characters didn't even know he was like
they shouldn't-
PXL.
They shouldn't have that technology. And
Right.
he knows he stumbled across something he doesn't want to mess with because this is something that I don't know. I've never heard of this before, and this sounds dangerous if this exists. And for some reason, it's on a small screen.
Yeah, it's
because
on like a
she thinks
two-
okay,
a
so you
2x8
think because she's
screen.
thinking, oh, the dome. You think the dome is fake? He went, no. This is for a small screen. She went, what's the purpose of that?
You know, like they're
Yeah.
saying, it's just like your eyes can't even tell the difference at the small level. It's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
there's no point in having it on such a small screen.
Yeah,
Right.
But he doesn't want it. He doesn't want it around him because he knows it's bad trouble. And then, surely enough, his name's Scotty.
Yeah.
Scotty is later found dead, like he killed himself. But Scotty did not kill himself. Juliet knows this for a fact. And so she has to dig even more. As she's digging, I think Bernard is giving her a little friendly warning.
The friendly warning is basically
I'm going to
they
leave it
be,
alone.
arrest they
I'm gonna
arrest
be
her
the
and
acting
then,
mayor
Well-
during this
Well,
time.
no, she's the acting mayor. No, he's the acting mayor, and he tells her she just needs to do her job, stay in her lane. Basically, just says stuff like that, like let's not push this any further. I'm doing a forgiveness. So we're
Forgiveness,
forgiving
yeah.
crimes and stuff, and so she's not buying it. She digs even more dirt, and then eventually loses her job as sheriff.
Yeah.
No,
so,
well,
so all of
he
that
gets
happened.
framed.
All of that happened before she went down to see Scotty. Then she went down to see Scotty, finds out that goes back up, finds out that he's killed himself, and as she's going down there to investigate, the new deputy, which was the guy that Bernard wanted to be the sheriff,
Yes.
gets a private message and it says to arrest her.
Well, hold on. But it's a misdemeanor, and then she gets to go down.
yeah,
because it starts
he
off pretty
basically
small.
he
It starts off
basically
small.
demotes
You're
her.
right. So she gets arrested the first time. It's a misdemeanor.
And really, it's not so much she's arrested. It's just like, okay, you're kind of in trouble. You need to kind of go back to your room
And
and,
they-
stay there and wait for us.
Yeah.
And then they come in and lock her down later.
Yeah.
At first, it's just you're in trouble. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
They send her back to mechanical, and
And-
she works a day there. And
they have her pack her
But she
stuff
also-
because she's
but we-
fired.
we
from
skipped
sheriff.
over that
It's
she
the
met-
forgiveness holiday.
let's get over that she met Lucas.
Oh, yeah, that's
who
right.
becomes more important.
Oh
later.
yeah. She meets a guy as sheriff when she as Julia as sheriff, she meets a guy called Lucas who looks up at the stars. He's based off of George Lucas Star Wars. Obviously, I'm kidding. I
I was thinking my son, but
yeah, there you go. But Lucas with a K. Anyway,
we don't know that.
I don't know.
but that's you're right. That introduction is made, and they're kind of sweet on each other a little
Yeah.
bit. You know,
They're sweet on
it's
it.
the budding portion
It's
of
the
a
budding
relationship.
love, and
Yeah.
the thing is, it becomes important.
Well,
Yeah,
she's
it
a
does-
main
it
character and he's a main character, so they got to be in love.
Yeah, of course. Well, at this point, we don't know because we hardly see Lucas in
That's
this.
true.
It's kind of
He's
odd.
a character.
He
Because the
becomes
thing is-
he's a very minor character in the first
Because the thing is,
quarter of this book.
yeah, very
At
minor.
least.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
just passing.
Oh
But
yeah, passing.
What I
character.
liked about the structure of the book, it was set out in I think 6 parts originally on Amazon, with the first part being with the first
Olsen.
deputy, and then the mayor, and then this part. So this part, you're wondering, is Julia going to get through this? Because
Yeah.
all the main characters have died so far,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and she's in a bad place, and now she's going to be
That's
sent out.
true. Let me ask you this: since I already knew, did you think Juliet was the next to die? Since it's your first time reading it,
I knew that she was.
since the other two main characters died.
I wasn't sure until she got sent back down to mechanical, and I was like, she's not going to stay there. Like I knew that, like you said,
But-
she's going to see it to the end.
but-
I was like, okay, something else is going to happen, and then they came and arrested her. I was like,
But then
she's not
sentenced her
gonna
to
die.
death.
I know, and I was like, she's not
You
going to
still
die.
didn't- okay.
She's not, because she stops by and talks to electronics guy, and she has this theory. So one of the reasons that Bernard
Walk, right? You're talking about Walk?
Yeah, Walker. They call
yeah.
him Walk.
It was a cool character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the reasons, we'll talk more about him later. 'cause
Yeah.
Some other parts of his character comes in. I thought it was really well done.
Just gonna say, did anyone else see the character Whistler from Blade as being
A little bit, yeah.
as Walk? I just can't. I mean, that's who he basically is:
Yeah.
the tinkerer, the mechanic, the brilliant mechanic who just
Grouchy,
tinkers.
people.
Older.
Later in the book, they talk about it. People follow him a little bit out of fear versus another character that he teams up with, who they kind of follow out of love. But
Yeah.
it's the same results. But it's not that it's not an evil fear. It's just he's just a tough, gruff old man
Yeah.
that you respect and fear out of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a stern.
You're
father.
afraid of disappointing. him.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, she goes back to him, and one of the reasons that Bernard is mad at her from the get-go is that they needed some supplies, and they were on back order or something like that.
Right. And she had stolen them.
She basically rerouted some supplies that were going to IT
yeah.
down to mechanical. Turns out those supplies were
Garbage.
faulty.
Yeah.
They were terrible. Kept messing up, and it was like this heat tape or something like
yeah,
that.
that didn't last at all.
Right. So anyway, I won't ruin everything on this.
Well, I mean,
but she talks to Walker about it, and he figures out
What's going on?
what's going on, and so does kind of the reverse.
Well, she also gets that email. She gets that email, that electronic message on her computer.
Oh, yeah.
That's how because she's concerned to just like, hey, I'm happy I'm back in mechanical. F those people. I'm just going to be a mechanic. But then gets that
that's
email from
right,
Scotty.
From Scotty.
And go,
before he
"Oh!"
had died.
And then,
That's
before
right.
he died, and then realizes, no, something's up. And then
That's when she goes
what
to
kicks
Walk,
her.
yeah.
That's when she goes to Walk.
Because
That's what
Scotty,
kicks off this whole
Scotty
thing.
was Walker's
Protege.
shadow. Is
Yeah.
what they call
no,
it.
Shadow. You're right.
Shadow
you're
is what they call it. It's,
But
yeah,
one of his, I mean, that was he misses Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
Talks to a pretend Scotty. It seems like at times. Did it sound
later,
like that?
later on.
Yeah, later
Later
on.
on.
But yeah, you can tell that. But Walker really cared for Scotty, as
And
he does
he
Juliet.
felt guilty because he encouraged Scotty to
take
take
the
position in IT.
Because it was more money and more
Yeah.
prestige, and he thought Scotty was a genius, and
Yeah,
he goes
he
away.
thought he'd be wasted down there.
But then he thought, oh, Scotty, it was too much pressure, and he killed himself, and it was all my fault. He didn't realize that he'd been murdered.
right.
So after all this, it is where Juliet does get arrested now because Bernard has figured out what she's doing. She's gone
Right.
way too far. She gets arrested. She gets drummed up charges, and now she has to go clean.
Yeah, and it's a 4-day climb
Yeah,
from
mechanical
Mechanical
to the top.
to the top, and the very top is the seal for the the silo.
By the way, we should mention there are two ways to get messages in the silo. One is by courier. They have people just running up and down the steps all day.
And they pay people if you're on your way up. It's kind of like Uber or whatever. You can get paid to carry a message on your way.
Yeah,
or
carry
down.
range your way down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can pay. They can stop the courier and add another message to him for a small nominal fee. It doesn't cost
Right.
much. But something that costs a lot of money is email for
Right.
some reason.
And she questions it. It's like, why?
She
It's
questions
like,
why
this
is email
It's just data. It doesn't.
more?
It's nothing.
Because you have to pay per letter, right?
Yeah. I think he said
And
per
pay
character.
and paper's crazy.
Okay,
It's like
per
a
character,
quarter
yeah.
of a chit per character.
Yeah. So it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
And so she's questioning, like, why does it cost so
for,
much?
for half
Well,
a chit, she sends an F and a
when
U
data-
to Bernard. I'm kidding. But no, I understand. But yeah, so it's very expensive to send those, and she didn't understand why when
Right.
carriers should be.
She's questioning why is it so difficult for everyone to communicate. That's her big question.
Yeah, communication is very
Because
difficult.
it doesn't seem like it should be.
Yeah. And plus,
And they don't even have a lot of radios like the radio.
no, just the radios are held by the deputies, most likely, and that's just to know what's going on each level and to get there in emergency or whatnot.
Right.
But why doesn't everyone just have radios
Yeah.
to talk to each other? Why, So she notices there's it seems like they make it hard to communicate in a silo where communication would be key.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another mystery we don't know about. So she gets set to go to cleaning, and she gets a mysterious letter from someone in mechanical saying, there's good humor is in full supply and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Just a cryptic message that she thinks what. All right, so we had a little break in it for some reason, and we're back.
Yeah, and Matt won't let us go
the
back to
computer
see
went back.
how far back we need
No.
to talk.
2 seconds.
Oh, is that all?
Whenever I said, "Oh, what's going on with the computer?" That's when we cut off because it just went blank. I'm staring at it right here.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah, we didn't miss anything. All right, so she's going out to cleaning. The cryptic message is sent to her, and she has to go out to cleaning. So
Yeah.
she does, and she realizes the world is beautiful on her little 3x8-inch screen.
Yeah.
And that's when it kind of hits her that, oh,
She figures it
this
out.
is where
Yeah.
this is where it's fake, and then everything starts making sense. This is why people are acting all crazy because they think the world has healed itself.
Right.
So she's smart. She knows what to do. She takes off over the mountain.
Decides
over
not to clean.
Yeah,
Because
first time ever.
Yeah.
First time ever, because everybody always says they're not going to clean, but they do it anyway. And she knows, because of her knowledge, she's like, okay, I'm heading over the hill. And she
Yeah.
just books it.
Yeah, and she realizes that's why they decide to clean, because they get out there and see that everything's beautiful, and they're like,
Like, I need to
everyone
tell
needs to
everybody
see
else.
this. So they go
Right.
and they clean. They're like, look, everything's great.
Yeah,
And then they're like, oh, I got to get over that hill. And
didn't
then
make
they
it enough.
die.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the heat tape is garbage.
Right.
Well, she finds out also that good humor is in full supply means the tape in the suit came from Supply and not IT. Supply has the real deal stuff, so she has real hit.
Like, she
heat
has a
tape
good
on.
suit.
She has
Yeah.
a great suit on, and so she can survive a little bit longer.
Right.
And
As long as her air supply.
as Bernard is watching this,
Oh, yeah.
he knows that he is in deep doo-doo when she crosses over the hill because that is against the law
Right.
for anyone to make it over that hill. He's panicking. He goes to, this is the end of the book 3, I think, and he
Yeah.
gets on a wire, and you're like, okay, who's he calling? He goes,
Yeah.
hey, someone, and then
He goes,
it started, this is Silo 18.
Yeah.
Calling
He
Silo 1.
Silo 1.
We have
what
a
do I do?
problem.
We have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. So that's when
And
you
then that
realize
cuts off, and you're like, oh,
there's
cool.
more than one silo,
And it's
which
right.
is a big reveal.
It's a
Yeah.
good deal. It's like,
And the-
okay,
and the-
there's at least 18 of these.
Right.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's like he said, this is 18. I'm like, oh, there's.
So what were you
there's
thinking?
18.
Yeah, I know.
There's 18 of them.
I thought that
which
was-
I kind of have already thought about there being more than one silo.
Okay.
But I didn't think that there were 18 of them.
Yeah. I remember
at
reading
least.
that I remember reading that for the first time going, there's more. Because I thought when she figured out the 3-inch screen, that solves the first mystery from the very first
Right.
part.
And you think, and my first reading is like, okay, this is where she dies, like all the main characters from before.
So
Yeah.
we
And
only
really-
get a little bit more of the puzzle.
And we're
and
back
now-
into the same silo again.
But then
Right.
they open up another bombshell by saying, oh, there's more of these, by the way.
Yes.
And you're
Yeah.
like, wait, what?
yeah.
Which really, it's great. Lucky she goes to the silo she goes to. We now moving into as a 17. 17. So
Yeah.
she goes to, and when she's
Which
getting
is
there,
right over the hill.
it's obvious there was a rush of people out of the silo. There's dead bodies everywhere. Some
Yeah.
crushed in the doors.
Right.
You know, there was
Yeah.
something happened at this place.
At first, she thinks it's her silo, and she got turned around.
Yeah,
'cause
right.
She didn't know what's going on.
Yeah, because the
everything's
further
exactly
she
the
gets
same.
away from the silo, the less her screen shows her
Yeah.
everything's all beautiful because
Yeah.
there's no programming. They can't
There's no
see
programming
anything.
past that. They don't know what's past there.
So
It's like a glitch in a computer, a computer game.
So once she gets away from the silo into uncharted territory, basically, she can see what's actually before her.
yeah.
But she's still limited to just the oxygen that is in the suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's trying to get somewhere
And
without,
as
asphyxiating.
yeah, and she finally does, which happens a lot in this book.
It does.
So she finally gets through after lots of grunting and groaning and pushing and praying and crying out, and
Yeah.
then gets into the other silo.
Right.
However, the air is a little tainted up at the top floor, and
Right.
she's having a little bit trouble breathing. So she goes down a little bit further down, and the air is better.
And the thing is that this silo has a lot of problems going on. There's
Yes.
First off, there's nobody there.
Yes.
And
No one there, no
Well,
electricity.
back to all
hardly.
the people that she saw outside the
Yes.
doors. She's like, oh man, they were all running out and trying to get in they didn't have any protection and they all just
Right.
burned up. And then the closer she gets, the more she realizes, no, they were all trying to get back in.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's really awful. It's a gruesome scene.
It
to
is.
think about.
Yeah, because the further in she gets, the more
Crowded.
the less deteriorated the bodies are. So
Yeah.
the ones that she's climbing over, they're just falling apart. Like
Yeah.
something in the atmosphere
Dust.
is just eating them up. Dust, just powder and everything. But as she gets further into the silo, even in just the first floor, they're less decomposed, and
Yeah.
it's pretty gruesome.
Yeah. So she makes it down a few floors, can breathe a little bit better. Air's okay. No electricity, no running water so far. Things are pretty bad. But she's shot. The
she
silo is
gets
just
in-
like hers.
She
Oh, yeah.
gets to where they grow the vegetables and stuff, and it's all
She gets
pretty
to
rotted
the
and-
hydroponics place,
Yeah,
and
it's all
able
pretty
to-
rotten.
She
There's
can
a
tell,
hose
you know,
still
she's
leaking water.
a little comforted in that she can tell it hasn't been 100 years, but it's also
Yeah.
not been a few days either. It's been
Right.
it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
She finds some tomatoes around and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and is able to basically create a
some
small little
wild stuff that's still
canteen
growing. Yeah.
from some water. The water's brackish and kind of
Yeah.
gross, but
It's drinkable.
yeah.
She figures she just needs to keep going down because
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where she feels
And she's
safe,
trying to
too.
get she's
that's
trying
what
to get
she's
back
used
to the mechanical
Yeah.
if
because
it's
the thing
laid out
is
the same way.
it is the same layout of the
Yeah, and then we find out she discovers that she's not alone.
Right?
There's a little scene where she finds a man. His name is Solo.
No, is that his name?
That's
She
the
calls
name
him
he-
Solo.
Okay. Well, he says he is Solo.
He says, "I am Solo."
I am Solo. Is what he says.
because he's solo. He's alone.
Yeah.
but that's not
He
his
says
name.
he is Solo.
Yes, he tells her.
We don't find that out for
Later. That's
Come
toward
on
the
now.
end.
I'm just saying, don't say his name's Solo. She calls him Solo.
No. He says I am Solo.
That's not. It's not saying that's his name.
Okay.
He's saying his position.
Bruce wants to skip to the end for some
Yeah,
reason. I don't
okay.
know why. Now that's a big deal. Later on, he says he doesn't want to be called Solo anymore. He wants to be called his actual name, which is Jimmy.
Yeah.
But he tells her
see,
it's
he
Solo.
is Solo. He thinks
Because
he
he's
is
alone.
Solo.
He says, "I don't
his
have
name.
a name."
His
He
name
says,
is
I don't
Solo.
have a name. I'm Solo. Because he doesn't have anybody. He's not
anyway.
saying.
Okay.
He's not saying call
Anyway.
me Solo.
Yeah.
She just calls him that because that's how.
You just don't
he
want him to
identifies.
have Han Solo's name.
Okay. Anyway.
No, I think that's a
Anyway.
better
So
interpretation
he
of the
goes-
character.
he was a kid when this all went down.
Wait, what?
and
14,
now he's
16,
16, I
somewhere?
believe.
Yeah.
And he's a grown man at 36 now.
No,
it- no, he is
he's
50.
50.
Oh, he's 56,
He's 34
okay.
years.
Okay, 34
alone.
years. So he's 34 years alone, but he still kind of acts like a kid because he doesn't have anyone to
He hasn't grown
grow
up.
up with. He hasn't grown up really.
Right. It turns out his father was
The head IT guy.
was the head of IT.
He knew
for
what was
that
going
one.
on.
And whenever
Stuff started happening at his place, and he hit
He had his son in a little safe house, which we now discover is on the regular IT because Bernard has now promoted Lucas
Yeah.
to the same
to his
position
shadow.
to shadow him, and he reveals to Lucas that there are other silos and that you will now be in charge of this silo when I am gone. And basically building him as a protege. He's reading this book of order.
Yeah.
The rules of the silo
the
and
order.
everything. And then there's a bunch of history books there that talk about the history of Earth that was, and that no one's ever seen this before. So
Right.
Lucas is just blown away by all this. But
And
has
see,
to
he's learning this at the same time that Juliet is kind of
learning it from a different
from
yeah.
Solo, and so he's trying to explain things to her.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a fun scene where he's like, "Well, what is a silo?" And she's
Yeah.
like, "But a silo is home.
Yeah.
This is silo." It's like, okay, no, silo is, and so he started telling them like, okay,
What's-
you got
yeah.
seeds and you got more than you
Exactly.
Can,
He knows more because
Right.
he's read the books. His dad has educated him a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's like, so why do you call somebody bullheaded? Well, that's because they're being bullheaded.
Kind of like a bully.
But what's a bull? But what's a bull?
Yeah.
Someone who's being bullheaded.
Yeah, she does.
Well,
she
she referred to it as being bully.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So anyway, all that's going on, but then they eventually team up there, fixing the place up a little bit here and there. She's doing what she can. She wants to get back, but she finds that the lower levels are flooded.
Right.
So she starts to get the pumps working, but she's really smart. She can do math, and she figures that it's going to take
2 years.
two. I thought it was 3.
It was 2 years if she added two
other
or
pumps.
3 more pumps.
Yeah,
and then the reasons that she's trying to get down there is down to mechanical to get power to the rest of the silo.
Right.
IT has its own power supply somehow.
But she
That's-
wants to get one of those diggers
Well,
and
yeah.
dig it sideways.
Well,
which is
learning the
forbidden.
history, she learned that the diggers that made the silos, they just basically dug down and then turned off and are still down there.
Right.
Yeah. So she wants to get a digger and dig sideways
Right.
and try to escape. Go to her silo
Yeah, she
again.
wants
'Cause
to
it's
go
not that
home.
far away.
No.
But she's got to drain everything out, and she's
Right.
here. She knows how to take care of the flooded vehicles when they dry out. But it's going to take 2 years. That's way
Yeah.
too long. Well, then she remembers there's a pump down at the bottom that she gets that working. It'll go in weeks
Yeah.
instead of months.
And
That's
it'll
a
go
big,
fast
that's a
enough
big
to
one.
where
That was-
when the diggers are taken out from underwater, she will have enough time to dry them out and things will start
Right.
rusting. Because they ran that first pump for a week, and it revealed one step, which is
Right.
about 7.5 inches
Yeah.
in 1 week. And so she's like, even if I were willing to wait that long, I can't get these machines running because they will rust before I can get to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the time the tips, I can't dry them off one inch at a time.
Right.
Yeah. So she has to do this. She has to go to another mission, do on a deep diving mission. As she grabs one of the suits from IT, puts the good tape on it, puts everything together, realizes that she's buoyant and has to get some weights strapped to her
Some
legs.
workout weights.
Which is a really, when you're thinking about this, it's a really cool scene. She's dropping to the bottom and then moving, having to pick up her legs and trying to move
Try
through
to
the
get over the
doorways.
turnstiles and stuff. Yeah.
And trying to get through there, trying to get to where she needs. And Solo's voice is really loud in her
with
speakers.
the
Say, hey,
radio.
don't speak unless I ask something.
He's up there running the
The
compressor.
pump, yeah, he's making
So
sure
that
she
can
gets
have
air.
oxygen.
And then she realizes after a while when she gets there and hooking everything up at the pump that she is feeling a little hot and there
Yeah.
is no air coming in.
Yeah.
And now
she's
she's
like,
thinking
why
of-
is it so hard to think? I can't
Yeah.
remember where the ground wire is supposed to go. And you're like, she's a mechanic. She should know where the ground wire goes. And then that's when it hit me. I was like, oh, she's running out of air.
Yeah.
And then that's when she realizes.
She's running out of air. That's right. You're like the kid from Neverending Story now. She's running out of air. Actually, when Barnes and the mayor are traveling down, Steven's got so much like, no, we still have a long way to go. Dude, I wish it was like Neverending Story for me. But anyway, so then she realizes she's not getting air. She contacts Solo. He's unresponsive. She has no idea what's going on.
Right.
And then there's this big struggle trying to get up, which is just awesome. She's cutting. She's ripping up her suit, trying to
cutting off the
weights
the weights and banging against everything. She drops her flashlight.
Yeah. everything's just going wrong. But she's trying to get up. She hits.
She's cutting this and that, and sometimes the water fills up and it starts pulling her back down again. And
Yeah.
so she's got this constant struggle that sometimes it's helping
She
her.
cracks her
sometimes it's
head
hurting her.
as she's floating up. She cracks her head on one of the staircases and kind of flips around and doesn't know if she's going up or down again. And
Yeah.
she's moving in a
There's
direction,
no
but doesn't know
bubbles
what.
coming out of her suit, so she can't
she
see
can't tell where
which
she
way
is.
they're going.
Oh, and the water's getting oily as she's getting to the higher.
Yeah.
It's getting kind of dirty.
Yeah.
And so
Well, she eventually takes her helmet off
Yes.
and then finds air bubbles that are stuck up under the stairs.
Yeah.
And is able to basically breathe
Breathe
a
a
little
little
bit
bit.
as she's going back up.
And so she finally makes it to the top. Solo is knocked unconscious.
Now, the thing is, she
Yeah.
gets to the top and she wants help. She's asking Solo for help, and he's not responding.
Yeah. And
Right.
she needs help big time because the water is freezing. This is
Yeah.
this is groundwater,
Yeah.
which I guess certain parts of the
she-
world it could be
She
nice
was
and
when
warm,
she
but-
said when
but
she
this
started
is
cutting. She
freezing.
cut into her suit, and that's what
Yeah.
got her all freezing cold. So now she doesn't want to die of hypothermia, so she has to get warm, and eventually she gets Solo to climb up there, and Solo finds out. He said, That's when he says, "My name is Jimmy, and I'm not Solo."
And he
I'm
also
not
has a
alone."
bloody
Yeah.
wound on the back of his head.
Yes. And the compressor has been knocked over and practically destroyed.
Yeah.
His
Toolkit's gone.
toolkit is gone.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they left the gasoline because she has to dump the gasoline over the compressor and use her knife to create a spark
To get
to
some
burn it
flames.
so that she can warm up because
Yeah.
she is
Which is a neat scene.
yeah.
A neat scene. But anyway, they find out who these other people are. It's others, and it's just basically a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
It's two teenagers,
15, 16 years old or something like that.
two little kids, and then a baby.
And then a baby, yeah.
And she's shocked because she didn't know 15-year-olds could have babies.
Right.
Because the thing is, the lottery probably is for older people, and because she's like, wait,
And
that can-
married,
that
too.
yeah, and that married. And she's like, wait, how's there a baby here? And then she
Yeah.
realizes, oh, at 15 you can have a baby. Like she didn't know. I mean, she didn't know how that
Yeah.
works. And-
It's one thing that they never go into, like that she asked where their parents were. And
She
they
does,
and,
yeah.
and they said gone and
Yeah.
never coming back.
Yeah.
So I guess their parents died.
yeah,
Well, the
Are
thing
they
is-
the parents of all of those kids?
Well, I think what it was, because Solo had mentioned, after, whatever happened, the war, when people left, there was fighting that went on for a long time afterwards.
Right.
He was hiding, staying away.
Yeah.
And these are kind of leftover children of that.
And
Okay.
at
There were
least from
other
10
survivors
years
for
ago.
different times. Yeah.
Okay.
At least
but
from 10
see,
years
he's been alone. It happened when he was 16, 15 or 16. He's 50 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These children are
Well,
15,
they have
so these are the
they're-
children of
Survivors.
children.
yeah.
There was a war going on in the facility that he was hiding from. He was staying away from that for a long time, and then eventually that stopped. He talked about it. It just it
I
went
know.
away.
I understand all that. I'm just
And-
doing this mental
yeah.
math in my
No, I
head.
know.
Yeah,
The
these are
oldest one
leftovers.
is about 15 or 16.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking at some point
So-
all the adults were dead, and you had a bunch of little kids that
Who
started
grew up
growing up.
and
they're
they
together.
had children of their
Yeah.
own,
And-
and these are their children.
And how dangerous the silo was, there's probably an accident where
Right.
they never came back.
That's just
But-
something
but-
they never went into.
But they're not in a good spot either. They're
No.
hidden in a dark, muddy corner that Solo would never even venture to. It seems like
Right.
that's
it's
not
another
an ideal
part
place.
of the farming. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so evidently there's a hydroponics area, and then there's a farming area.
Yeah, and we
It's
hear a
lower.
little bit about this because the pig
that's where they
because the
are.
pig that got killed in the crossfire.
right.
So we know there's some other livestock growing places
I think
and stuff like that.
the quote unquote farm is lower because they talk about
Right.
burying the mayor and the deputy.
The people that die, they get
Right.
put
They
back
put in
into
the
the
farm.
ground.
Yeah.
Okay, but
So there's-
that's not the hydroponics place
It's-
because
yeah, it does seem a little
That's
different.
further up.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where Solo grows his food
Yeah.
to
Correct.
eat. He never comes down to the farm, and that's where these people are.
yeah, yeah.
So
No, yeah, that's exactly right. And so it takes a while to convince them to come up, and she's thinking, "Oh my gosh, don't have any more babies. I'm gonna have to watch these teenagers." And it's kind of funny. But
starts talking about her birth control implant.
yeah, and we basically caught up with all Juliet here. Meanwhile,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
there is
Meanwhile-
the mechanics after when Juliet does not die.
Right.
and just refuses to do a cleaning. The first one ever to refuse to do a cleaning and then disappears.
Yeah.
There is a revolt. And
Oh, yeah.
he shows Lucas, Bernard,
They're
as Lucas
inspired.
is studying, he's like, turn to page whatever.
Yeah.
He says, if someone does not clean,
Prepare for war.
prepare for war.
Right.
And the mechanical are the ones who are going to go to war.
Right.
And they think they got it all laid out. They control the power. They're going to shut it down.
Figure out how they've got guns. They're
Yeah.
making bullets.
They
they've-
manufacture their
Yeah.
own guns and everything like that. And this is where that cool scene with Walker comes in. So they're all talking about all mechanicals,
Yeah.
having a powwow
Oh,
and everything.
yeah.
And he realizes it's the heat tape. It worked, and
Yeah.
he's got to go tell mechanical that she's still alive.
Yeah.
And he evidently he does not leave his room. He does all of his tinkering in his room, and he starts having a panic attack with all the people around in this big huge room and stuff, and he's trying to say something because they're all rabble, and he's trying to let them know this is what's up.
And this is how an uprising starts.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the uprising.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool scene. So then they go, but IT is already prepared. They kind of they're ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
So they hold off, fend off from mechanical, and then they actually are winning. Mechanical's on the run. They
Yeah.
put up a barricade. Mechanical does to kind of stop them on the stairwell. Eventually, they break through and they start slaughtering everyone. At this point, sadly, is where Walker, who's been messing with a radio.
Yes, they get a radio off of somebody that was killed from IT, and he's tinkering with it, trying to
Yeah.
get it to where he can hear them.
Other conversations, from
Right.
the opposition, IT and the deputies.
Right, so that they figure out what their next move is, and then he finds out that there's a
It's
So-
great
so-
because
so
you hear two deputies talking, but then she is, who the hell is deputy whatever?
yeah. And see, whenever he's doing this, so we know that there are other silos, and
But they find
and
out.
I
then.
know a little bit about electronics. I'm like, he's stuck on a channel,
Yeah.
and they're not talking on the channel here because they know you have a radio. Mm-hmm. And when he starts talking about this other little board, I was like, oh, he's gonna start doing something.
Yeah.
And it says 18 on it. It's like he's about to start going to all the different channels.
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
Well, and then they have to get on the run. They have to leave the workshop because the battle's coming for them. So they hurry up, grab everything, move to a different location. They want to show everyone that, hey, we found out there are more silos.
Well, while they're doing it, they hear Juliet
That's-
trying to get
yeah.
in touch
Yeah.
with Solo
Yeah.
while she's underwater fighting for her life.
And now they're really shocked because now they have to try to get to talk back to her, which they do.
Right.
And it's a nice little moment. They're like, oh my gosh, she's alive. There's another silo. Oh, and they get the whole picture now. But
Right.
it's too late. Mechanical has lost the war. They're getting mowed down. They're all getting mass arrested. And then Bernard will be the last person she talks to saying, we've got people to clean windows for years now.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you who the first one's going to be. Back up a little bit. Lucas has been talking secretly to Juliet because she has been called. The first person Juliet
Yeah.
called when she was in IT was called Bernard. Said,
Yeah.
that was how book 5 ended. I think I'm
Yeah.
coming, Bernard, and I'm
Yeah.
coming to clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Bernard
Yeah.
knows. Oh, she didn't die.
She somehow made it to
No,
another.
yeah.
Not only
Because
made
she
it
was
to
like,
another
you know who
side.
this
Another
is?
great ending.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, you know who this is? And he was like, no.
yeah.
Yeah. Not only did she
Coming
make it
for
to
you.
another silo, but found the secret room.
Yeah. Well,
With
yeah,
it-
Solo showed it to her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but he doesn't know that Solo showed it to him.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
So he's thinking like, how the hell did this happen? She not only did she
Well, he
survive,
picks it up thinking it's a dead silo. Mm-hmm. He's scared to death already. He's like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah.
That silo died a long time ago.
Yeah. So I guess we also need to establish that a month goes by from the time that she's sent out to clean, from the
Right.
time that she takes the dive.
Right.
A month has gone by.
So Lucas, being the protege, she calls again, and we don't know when.
And
but
Lucas is
has
stuck
been
in that-
talking.
in
Lucas
that
has
room.
been talking to her, is what we get revealed in one of the chapters. He's been talking with her for quite some time. You're like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
So he's not. You think he's with Bernard but he's always seen Bernard as a father figure. You think, oh no, he's going to turn. He's turning Lucas evil now.
Yeah.
But then no, he's with Juliet. He's been talking with Juliet for a while. He kind of has a bigger picture of what's going on.
Right.
Unfortunately, he kind of breaks down in front of Bernard. all of a sudden he just
Yeah,
wants out.
he wants
and
out.
Bernard's thinking, okay, I got to kill you now because you know all the
And
secrets.
he's just like, "Hey, sheriff, you hear that? He said he wants
wants
out."
out.
Yeah.
And that
Although,
that
hold on
is
now.
the phrase that you get. That's the suicide phrase in the silo.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
never talked about that exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you say I want,
want
out,
out.
they're more than happy to let you go out.
yeah,
You just don't get to come back in.
yeah,
But I thought that was a good character development, even for Bernard. Like he
Oh,
was
yeah.
genuinely upset.
he was proud of Lucas. Lucas was his boy. He was so proud. Gave him the pig that died during the battle. He gave him some of the pork. Pork's
Yeah.
hard to come by, but
Yeah.
he made sure the boy got anything he wanted.
Bernard is entirely convinced that what he is doing is absolutely necessary.
Yes.
Yes.
And they compare it as to sometimes you have to be harsh with your children so that they will survive. And he considers everybody in the silo his children. He is
Yeah.
in charge of them, and they will die. There will be revolts. There will be uprisings if he doesn't have to be harsh with them sometimes.
Right.
And so it turns out that he's had to kill several people. This is why they've made communication so expensive.
Exactly.
He starts talking about somebody down in mechanical who wanted to start drilling further deep or sideways.
Sideways.
And
Sideways is
we
forbidden.
can't do that. And,
so he had to get rid of him.
had to get rid of him. Turns out that was Juliet's lover.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So there's a lot of intrigue here going on, but Luke he tells her, Lucas is going to be the first to clean. He lets Juliet know that. Juliet has 1 day, so she does what anybody would do in that situation when you find out a loved one is about to die. She falls asleep. But then she wakes up with enough time to run to IT, get cobbled together another suit. But then, this is pretty smart, cobbles together a heat tape of blanket. A blanket made of heat tape.
Yeah,
The good
the
heat
good
tape.
stuff.
The good stuff. And you're thinking, what? Because I couldn't remember at first. I was like, why do we need what's a blanket going to do? He's got to breathe too. Well, then she makes it to she makes her suit a little bit slimmer so she can fit through. She doesn't have to squeeze through all those buys like she did last time. And so her suit's not as bulky. She runs down there. The doors open for the next cleaner. And she goes in there real quick, waves at him.
nobody comes out. Like
can't-
she was
no,
expecting
yeah.
to have to like tackle him.
And she's amazed that Lucas is being smart enough to know that what he's seeing is not real. She's like,
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing that he's not even cleaning. So she grabs him real quick, throws the heat blanket over him, tells him to calm down. They sit there because, by the way, we should mention the jumping platform wherever the platform where they leave and then it closes back down. That place is fumigated.
Yeah.
They incinerate the room to get rid of the virus, so it's clean again.
Right.
So it's a room you can step in, step out of, and it'd be fine, clean, breathable
It's an
air.
airlock.
Yeah. So she goes in there real quick. Smart idea. Throws the heat blanket over them both. And then the incineration comes. It's getting hot.
Yeah.
But because that heat tape is good, they're okay. Unfortunately,
She realizes
Lucas-
it ain't Lucas.
yeah, well,
No,
you're spoiling it. Lucas, but she thinks it's Lucas who panics and runs out from the blanket.
Yeah.
She
Well-
can't get him. She thinks he's dying.
Yeah,
She's
well,
so upset.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure why. I guess she thought that Lucas was getting out from under the blanket because it wasn't enough for both of them. He was, he was,
Well, and then
he was
the talk-
doing a Jack Dawson,
No, and she had the
Titanic.
struggle. It's like, okay, the heat's getting too much. That's why he's struggling, and that's why he's pulling away because she's starting to feel a little bit of heat herself, and she's like, okay, well, so he's probably burning alive, and
Yeah.
and that's why he's acting crazy.
So she's upset, and that's the next big reveal that it's not
Yeah.
Lucas.
The fire eventually dies down, and
It's- but I like how it ends. She's like, wait, she realized who it is, and she does not, and this man does
didn't.
not deserve her tears. And I was like, what? Yeah. I mean, I knew it by then because I'd read it before, but you're like, wait, who is it then?
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait, what is Bernard doing in the suit? Well, then you back up a little bit, and you realize that when the new sheriff is taking Lucas up to his death, that's when Juliet calls again out to her friends, Walk and
yeah.
Maria, or I can't remember her name.
Sheila?
Shirley. And so Bernard says, everyone everyone turn off your
Radio
radios.
silence.
But the sheriff doesn't do it because
Yeah.
Peter
He
Billings
just
wants to
turns it
hear.
down a little bit.
And so then he hears the truth. Well, then he has a change of heart. And so then, using his power, he arrests Bernard and sends him out to clean.
Yep.
And of course, it takes, I think it's a week or so, because she is heavily burned.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, it didn't work perfectly.
Right.
So she has to be in intensive care for a few weeks until she finally wakes up. She's well enough to go. She wants to go visit everyone in Mechanical, say hello. She heard about the war, heard about all the friends who had died during the war,
Yeah.
but wants to say hello. But they have some more. They don't know how to tell her this, and she's like thinking it's bad news. Like, oh no, it's great news in a way. You're the mayor. When they heard you were back, you became a hero, and even though we called off the election, they came to vote anyway, and you're now
voted in.
mayor, and we need you. She's like, okay, if I'm mayor, guess what? It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the 100% God honest truth from here on out.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. So we're at a new beginning here.
Right.
We're about to go. And meanwhile, the little epilogue is the pumps are working great. Because that little girl's like, hey, there's like X amount of steps
Right,
open now.
right.
Yeah.
So the water's receding really fast over there
In the
now.
other silo.
On the other, because she got it working.
Right.
And so so it was like, yeah, I guess we're going to be okay. And that's basically how it ends, because we're like, okay, now what happens next?
Yeah.
'Cause
I know.
she's got to get back there. So what happens next is, I'm kidding. We're stopping there, but so far, book one, what do you think?
I think it's great.
I love this series.
I love the idea, the premise, and everything.
I do.
Well, the thing is,
I told
you
Megan,
had to
Megan
get-
doesn't even read that much. I said, you've got to. I know you don't like reading. I said, but you've got to read this series. It is so stinking.
And
good.
when
when
it
were
gets
these
to
published?
oh, this has been 10
It's been a while.
10 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I read them when the third one was finished. Jeremy was the first.
It was one of my first
one-
Audible books when I first started doing Audible.
because they were
Oh,
free
okay.
back then.
Oh, wow.
And Jeremy, yeah, the
They're not
Audibles
free
were free. Well, no,
Definitely
these
not
were
free.
like free little stories
Yeah,
back then when I
they were
read them. 'cause
free
they
on
were free
Amazon. They were. I mean, these
Oh,
were
Kindle,
easy,
I should
easy.
say. I got it on
Oh,
Kindle for
yeah,
free.
okay, Kindle.
They were on my Kindle
They were
for free.
cheap. I remember when I first started Audible. Like this is the hot book.
Mm-hmm.
This was everybody was pushing wool everywhere. And,
Yeah, why is it called wool?
Because the
the
wool
wool
is what they need
that's
to
used to
clean.
clean the
It's
lens
used to
with.
clean the lens.
Uh,
Well, I mean, look, the second book shift, and the third book is dust.
And she throws away
So-
the wool. So
yeah.
I guess I could probably
The-
understand if
the
you got
wool.
the wool is covering their eyes
there you go.
or something like that, and she's about to pull the wool.
Either
off.
way, it's not the most exciting name, but Silo series is a pretty good
Silo's,
name
yeah.
for
the
a
series is good.
But these books are, if you just listen to us all.
And the thing is, you're going to get the whole backstory, and it is fantastic.
Okay,
It's a
well,
fantastic
anyway,
backstory.
Well, hold on. Y'all were talking about this twist.
Which
No,
one?
the twist was that there were more silos. Was the one I was talking about for
Oh.
book one.
Is that the one you were talking about?
For book one, but
Okay.
anyway, so overall, I thought it was it's a really good stinking series.
Okay. Yeah.
Overall, I mean, the book one is just great. It
Yeah.
intrigues you.
Well,
all the characters are interesting, and the story just pulls at you.
Yeah, it does. I mean,
There's not a dull moment.
no.
And
No,
the
there's
world
really
building.
not.
And the thing is, it's a fascinating world.
Yes.
And the thing is, the world makes sense. It's he's grabbing ideas. He's thinking about the author. It's just like, okay, what would it be like to live like, after the nuclear apocalypse? Not saying that that's what happened, because but it's like he's just thinking about, okay, now you're living in a bunker, and he's just working through all these scenarios, and he's coming up with
All right.
the most plausible things
All right.
that I've ever come
All right.
across.
Yeah. So,
So those weren't the twists that I was thinking y'all were talking about.
I mean, there's several little
one-
twists
the one,
in there.
The one little
but-
twist, and I'm guessing since that's not what y'all were talking about, it really wasn't that big of a twist.
Well,
But-
no,
no,
there's
no.
several twists in
Well,
there.
the thing is, the thing I loved most about the first book was that you had the shift of focus of the main character, so that when the third part comes around, it's like, well, she's dead now too.
Yeah.
I was ready to give her up and move on to the next one. Well, I guess Scotty's going to be the main character in the next part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, and I just thought that was the neat framing device that he gave us. Because
Yeah.
it made things unsettled.
Yeah.
You weren't settled into anybody in particular.
yeah, definitely. I mean, especially with getting attached to that first character.
Yeah.
Then he dies, and you're like, okay, well, now. Like
And
you
they're
said,
good characters. You like them. They're really good.
Now, here's
like-
the real main characters. And no, they're gone too. Damn it, George. Oh, wait, Huey or Howie.
So, ready for book 2?
I am.
I am.
I think I have a credit now.
There you go.
So I can
Delve right into it.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next time going through book 2 on
Shift.
Shift.
Okay.
Yes, and it is Shift is not. It's a really good book. I'm covering up the F. Ha ha! Make a joke.
It's not. It's not.
It's
Gotcha.
not. It's not.
Good.
Okay.
It's a
But-
big book.
It is. Well, I mean, these are all big books. These are 500 some
17 hours
pages.
for that first one.
That's right. It was.
Yeah. I forgot
It
how
flew
big these
by.
were. I was.
It flew by.
Oh, it does. It
Yeah.
does. It
I did it in
does.
6 hours.
Shoot.
It was my second time through.
All right.
Yeah,
I just needed a
I
refresher.
could
Right.
not enjoy a book
I just
that
need
fast.
Well,
Yeah,
I
okay.
wasn't planning on it, but Matt was like, "No, we can't do it tonight. I got 150
You were saying
pages
like
left."
you were already done.
Well, I was.
Like, when are we doing this, man? Come on.
I'm the one that said that, and then he was like, "Matt,
Matt, we're waiting on you.
I was like, "Oh,
I had to rush and
only-
finish 150 pages in
Like,
one
oh.
day, which wasn't hard.
I was
but-
only past the first part, but the first,
Okay.
I could
sheriff.
have done it later on this week."
No, I
just
really
could not have
I know
done it.
you're
No, I was
leaving.
happy to finish it.
You're leaving soon. I think we ought to try to record before he leaves again.
We will,
Second
but
book.
let me go ahead and end this podcast. We'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.